feel when your numbers go up and they hear you. They start following your message cause they feel you. Haters in the rear view wanna ruin plans. Don't be startled, they just low-key fans. They tight like bands on the fresh stack. Knowing Rolo runs the city, bringing hip-hop back for the 51st year with my loquacious bands. Now this ain't no love.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Rolo Runs the City podcast. I am your host Rolo and I am glad to be back with you guys for another episode. And of course I thought this episode was very near and dear to my heart because I have something that needed to be said and we must put it out there, man. But first, before we get into all that, you guys already know, you guys can reach me on my social medias, on Facebook and Instagram at Rolo Runs the City Podcast, also at Rolo Runs the City Music. So then that way, not only can you check out the podcast, but you could also check out the material that I put out as well on the music side. And of course, you guys can reach out to me on X at Rolo Runs the City. When I get a little philosophical every now and then, I decide to go ahead and drop some quotes. Of course, not only my own quotes, but of course, quotes that have been put out there through prominent people. Because anytime you need some inspiration, some motivation to get the spark going, of course, I'm there for that. Anyway, without further ado, this show is called Showing Up Ain't the Flex, Doing the Work Is. And what do we mean by that? Okay. Of course, what we mean by that is you got a lot of folks that they want to be celebrated for showing up and not putting in the work. Of course, we have put this out in past episodes about people wanting to show up and just see what's going to happen. But they think that the result is predicated on just them showing up and not doing the work. And of course, we also talked about people not even wanting to show up. So I felt it was imperative to go ahead and put this subject out there and see what folks have to say about it. Of course, you could always leave me comments, whether if you're checking me out on YouTube or any of your podcast streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, you can definitely check me out in there. But without further ado, we're going to get into the show. With that being said, showing up is just not enough. You had to, back in the day, not too long ago, but, of course, this is something that we're missing in today's society, in today's world in 2025. You got to outwork, outperform, outthink to earn your spot. Many people are not doing that anymore. They want to be celebrated just for going to the start line, let alone not knowing if they could finish the race or not. But they want to be celebrated just for being there. And more often than not, we're seeing a lot of people not able to complete the race, whether it's, it doesn't matter what they're doing right now, to be honest with you. And I use the race reference, of course, Rolo Runs the City, so I always use metaphorical terms in reference to running. But, of course, you have a lot of people out there who have tasks that need to be completed, whether if it's at work or whether if it's something that's at home that needs to be done. Whatever facet of life that you're getting involved in, there's many people who don't know what it is to actually follow through and get things done and see things through. Back in the day, you had to outthink, outperform, outwork just to earn your spot. And of course now, with people not even wanting to be in the race, so to speak, people are getting their spots by default. And this is why standards have lessened, things have dropped in reference to what we expect and expectations of people. So it is what it is at that point. But excellence was the standard, and now people are just getting applauded to just going to the gym, going to work, going to life events, and not providing any results. I mean, you're seeing so many selfies getting done in the gym, all these videos that people are clipping up and putting together, and they're not even putting in the work. I mean, you can get somebody who's probably trying to hit the bench do some delt work, run a couple seconds on the treadmill, putting this montage together, and they put it out on the gram or it's on TikTok or whatever it is. But they're not actually putting in the real work. Because I'm going to tell you like this, whenever you're working, especially when it comes to working out, you're going to sacrifice some sort of form in some of the workouts that you're doing. And I'm not talking about you sacrificing form because you just got poor form. No, damn it, you're tired. Okay, lactic acid is building up and you're sweating your ass off. It happens, right? But these people, they go into these gyms, they're performing a couple of exercises, no sweat, evident whatsoever, as if they're in just this humidity controlled, temperature controlled environment with the AC just blowing. They're putting in hard work, but not a drop of sweat is coming off of these folks. So it's crazy to see people on that aspect. I mean, I look and I'm like, dude, this is comical. You see it all the time on Instagram. You see people not really putting in any true work, but they've got this great video montage set up for you as if we're watching Rocky 4. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. And even Rocky 4, man, you seen the guy sweating and he was in the snow. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really look at that and say, man, we've got to do better. So with that being said, I just see that it's definitely a pet peeve of mine. Like I said, people showing up to life events, even work, no results are being shown, but like I said, they just want that applause because they're capturing it on the gram, or it's something that they putting out on TikTok or on X or Facebook. They just, people want to be applauded. And they're not putting any real work out there. But at the end of the day, they want to act like they're chronicling a journey. And in order for your journey actually to have any sort of reverence, I mean, are you really putting in work? What do you have to show behind this? What work are you trying to display in reference to, just showing up? I don't know. It baffles me, man. And I can't dwell on it more enough, but it is what it is at this point. And I'm going to tell you like this. Like, we're losing the human effect when it comes to showing up and putting in the work. And the reason why I say that is because you have a lot of people, instead of having a good, healthy interaction, you're saying, hey, man, I got to interact with you. Look at what I'm putting out on the gram. It has all the answers you need. Somebody comments on my stuff. Evidently, I try to comment back, especially if it's something that is, if you're critiquing, that's okay. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinions. So, of course, we definitely want to make sure that we address things accordingly. But if somebody needs help, of course, you want to address that as well. It's not always about, being applauded and saying, oh, yeah, your content's great. Hey, thanks a lot, and double tapping their message or whatnot. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing what you have to do on that aspect of taking good criticism, of course, helping people to those who are actually reaching out, and building community at the end of the day. That's what you want to do. But let's talk about communication real quick and the laziness of communication. People not returning calls, or people not returning texts, and just ghosting you on commitments. I mean, dude, we're seeing a lot of that now. And I think the reason why that we're seeing a lot of that is because people don't know how to effectively communicate anymore. At the end of the day, communication is something that is pretty much becoming work for folks. I always try to make sure that I'm very transparent in anything that I do, whether it's this podcast, my music side, or even with my personal life. I always try to make sure that I effectively communicate, so then that way people don't get things misconstrued. People don't end up in a situation where I'm being misinterpreted. I make sure that I'm very in detailed when I am effectively communicating with people. And the reason why I do that is because I don't need anything to be misinterpreted. Okay, so if I come off to be someone who is very detail oriented, it's not because I'm being condescending. It's not because I'm questioning your stupidity. What I'm actually doing is I'm making sure that you're not misinterpreting what I'm saying. So if I'm telling you something in detail, appreciate that. At the end of the day, you can go ahead and definitely say, hey, roger that, 10-4, got you. We'll go ahead and we'll keep that moving. But you have a lot of folks now, they see stuff and it's almost like they don't know how to interpret things, even when you're being like in detailed with your message. It's almost like they see it and they don't know what to say. They don't even know whether to like your message or just let it be, or respond saying, hey, 10-4, got you, roger that. They don't know. And this is crazy. This is where we've gotten to in society with communication. I mean, like I said, it looks like communication now is work. And unfortunately, people don't want to show up for that work. I mean, people can't say, hey, we got you, bud. Thumbs up, heart, strong arm emoji, whatever. And it's just crazy because when people are doing the best that they can to get information out to you, it should be well received. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're appreciative of that, because when you come out flat and you're bland with people and you're short, pretty much kind of like the way that people are receiving your stuff, then they'll ask you, well, he's a bit more loquacious than this. Why is he being short? Why is he not telling us stuff the way he needs to tell us? Well, the same way you guys are being lazy and receiving it, well, we might as well just be lazy and giving the message out, be very short. End of story. Think about it, people. We're getting lazy with our processes. When was the last time you did a 3-digit math problem without using a calculator? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you will be like, damn, it's been a while. Borrow from our neighbor, carry the one. When was the last time you actually did that? A lot of people have veered away from the common things that built our society. And right now with AI, all sorts of, tools that we're using, we're an absolute mess right now. If we have our internet grid just go down, we would be lost. We would not know what the hell to do. People will be like, oh my God, I can't stream. Dude, call me a caveman if you want to. Not only do I have Blu-ray, DVDs, I have a damn VCR. If Netflix shuts down today, I will be quite all right. I have a library that I will be able to keep myself occupied with. Not many people can say that. I have CD books for days. I don't have to rely on Apple Music, Spotify, or anything like that because I have things. Call me a caveman if you want to, but I still got a CD player and all that stuff. I used to have a cassette player until like maybe a couple of years ago. I got rid of it, which, I'm consistently thinking, man, I think I need to go ahead and get me a cassette player again. In fact, my wife is trying to buy me a record player so I can play vinyls. That's something that she told me. She's like, you know what, I'm going to get that to you for Father's Day. Just because we like vintage things. At the end of the day, if the government wants to play its games like the way they want to play it, like the same way they wanted to play the game back in 2020 with the pandemic, it is what it is, man. Like, go right ahead and play your games, man. We're going to be all right over here. We know what we need to do. We're a generation who is used to touching grass anyway. That's what the young kids are saying right now. But there's a lot of folks that would actually go out of their minds. So let's make sure that we're doing the things that needs to get done that makes us human. Damn it, talk to people. Respond back. The crazy thing is that social media is actually replacing real conversation. The reason why I say that is you got a lot of people that are going out there, they're saying with social media, they're like, oh, well, it's not that I didn't want to answer back to you, but man, you see my video, man. I seen you give it the double tap. And You know that that's what we're doing right now. No, man. Hey, what's going on with you? What are you doing? How's life? Everything going well? What's going on? Like, things need to be a little bit more personable as opposed to just saying, did you check out my post? Did you see what I had going on? Man, you double tapped it. You see what it is. Just take it for what it's worth. No, man, that doesn't tell me how you're doing. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. So then that way we can make sure that we are building and cultivating better relationships and making sure society is staying absolutely intact. Because I'm going to tell you like this: the things that we're reading right now in reference to people talking about, well, nanotechnology is going to get us to a point where we're going to be able to live to, forever. And everything's being established by 2030. So if you make it that far, there's a good possibility where we're going to be able to live forever. And I think the divine intervention of the Lord is going to come. But anyway, that is just my Christian belief. I believe in all that stuff. And if you start messing with God's free will, then things are going to happen. It is what it is. So that's how I feel about that. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But anywho, I mean, that's what I believe. I mean, I'm a firm believer in, making sure that we keep the human aspect intact. And that comes with communication, I'm going to just be honest with you, though. People are making excuses not to talk to one another. And we're more connected than ever via social media. And it's almost like, well, social media kind of gives us that out of being accountable in reference to people talking to one another, family members actually reaching out and talking to one another because they're like, oh, well, I seen my uncle's post last week on IG, or, I saw something that my cousin said on Facebook, or, I seen something that my brother put out on X, and, it was pretty funny or whatever. And it kind of takes away accountability of actually reaching out and talking to people. So basically what I am talking about is, life is work, man, and like I said, it isn't just a flex, just showing up. You have to do the work, man. Everything in this life is work. Cultivating relationships is work. Putting in actual work, earning your income is work. And building community, at the end of the day, it is work. It takes work. And like I said, man, these devices, they were here to keep us more connected, but yet we're further apart than we have ever been. And in fact, depending on how people's feeds are, this thing can actually divide us as opposed to unite us. Whether if you're like, oh, I vote red or I vote blue, or I see things, the racial inequalities, or I see things, differently than this person thinks. And it's creating more of a divide as opposed to uniting us. So don't let that happen. Be a free thinker. Understand and respect people's opinions, even if they don't coexist with yours. Please do the best that you can to respect everyone as individuals. What you should respect, of course, is someone who's going to follow somebody else's opinion, doesn't have an opinion that's formulated by themselves. I get that, but for the most part, have your own opinion, have your own take on things. You don't have to agree with me all the time. That's cool. I totally get it. I understand it and I respect it. But at the same time, have respect for me as an individual, and I'll have my respect for you as an individual. And it's not that we're looking at the laws of reciprocity in reference to respect. I respect people anyway. It just is what it is because I have that respect for myself. And I don't expect so many people to respect me if they don't have respect for themselves. So I get it, man. It is what it is. People say, oh, respect is earned, not given. Like, dude, if somebody doesn't want to respect you, it is what it is. But I always go with the understanding that if you don't have respect for yourself, I can't expect you to respect me. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, work is work. Be the human that you were meant to be. End of story, But it's not the end of the podcast. So we still have some more stuff coming up. But celebrating mediocrity. We can actually talk about that, People are consistently applauding other folks, and they haven't done any work, so therefore they're not reaping any results. And we have to really stop doing that, man. I mean, people are just so happy nowadays for somebody just showing up to the start line, man. They have not ran the race. And I don't know how many times I have to say this, man, but like I said, you're not going to reap any results if you're not putting any effort in. If you're not putting in the grind and doing what you're supposed to do. It's almost like if you're walking into the gym and you're walking out of the gym, but you did 5 sets of something and you're doing it every 2-3 weeks. And it's like, damn, okay, you hit the bench about 4 or 5 times, in reference to your sets. And you're trying to max out. You're doing 3 or 4 reps at your max, and you're doing 5 sets of that. Of course, you're going to break down, but you're not going to really get anywhere because you went 6 weeks ago, you did that, and now you're doing it again. And you probably won't show up for another 3 or 4 weeks. Dude, not only are you not going to increase your strength, but aesthetically, you're not going to look like much because you're inconsistent in what you're doing. So you're expecting to walk into the gym and then walking out swole and think you're going to be okay? It's not going to happen. So you got to make sure that you build a better consistency with that, and then you'll reap the benefits of what you're putting in. Like I said, we talk about the laws of reciprocity. If you're not showing up, you can't expect to get anything back in return. It is what it is. And life doesn't reward your efforts. It rewards your execution. You can say, hey, I had the best of intentions of walking into this gym and trying to make it happen, but did you execute? And are you executing consistently? And if the answer is no, there you have it. So let's make sure whenever you're going into that, that gym or that metaphorical gym, it could be your work, it could be your music, it could be your podcast. If you're trying to, execute on hitting 500 3-pointers before you leave the gym, Steph Curry type stuff. If you're trying to be and execute as an entrepreneur at the highest level, and you're the first one into the office and you're the last one to leave, you're doing that consistently, well, I'm pretty sure that execution that you're taking is going to get you to the next level. But if you're walking in there and you're walking out and you're thinking, well, at least I went ahead and put some time in, and it's like, but did you really put in time? Did you really put the time that needed to get put in for you to maximize the best possible outcome? And if the answer is no, then you're going to get what you get. And this is what it is. But you have to show up and you have to show out. And the reason why I say that is because, like I said not too long ago, I don't want to say back in the day, like, oh, back in the 80s and back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Like, I don't want to sound like that, man. I mean, people a few years ago, before, the pandemic, people showed up and they were showing out, man. They definitely wanted to outperform their competition, and they definitely damn sure wanted to outperform their best from yesterday. They were trying to best themselves out. And now you have people who don't have that mindset. You have to show up and you have to show out. You have to raise your standards no matter what. And don't compare yourself to lazy people and thinking that's the bar. It is not the bar. Trust what I tell you, it's not the bar. If you're comparing yourself to people like that, then you're always going to win. Let's put it that way. Think about it this way. I remember back in the day when people used to watch Jerry Springer and all that other stuff, and they would be like, damn, well, their life is jacked up. Well, I'm living better than that. Well, first of all, you're not, because you're watching that trash. And second of all, you cannot compare yourself to somebody who was working for less than minimum wage, having relations with their cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell are you thinking? You know what I'm saying? No, you're not doing better than that. Sorry. Not happening. You know what I'm saying? Got to do better. Don't be a hot mess. Don't expect yourself to execute at the highest level and you're comparing yourself to that. It's not happening. You know, you're not competing at the highest level. You're not competing at your best because you're comparing yourself to the lowest level. You'll always outdo the lowest level. What you want to do is you want to see the bar high and you want to say, damn, I don't know if I can get to that. But to strive, to achieve, to get that, it's all worthwhile. But anyway, like I said, man, it's not a flex to just show up. You have to show out. You have to show your true potential. And you're not going to do that by, executing off of bottom feeders. You know what I mean? That's what they're there for. They're there to kind of build up your confidence a little bit, but you can't live in that space. At the end of the day, you have boxers back in the day. They will beat up a couple of bums. Just go ahead and get in those numbers in reference to the win-loss column. They want to stack those wins up a little bit so then that way they have a great title defense because they done won the championship. It's like, okay, well, I ain't got a couple of bums under my belt, but let me go and take on the task at hand and really not overlook this guy. And then more times than not, they would actually win. But don't live off of trying to feed off of the bottom feeders. Because if you do that, you're going to lose. You're going to get yourself knocked the hell out. It is what it is. Anyway, this is my podcast episode for this week. I'm very grateful for you guys to check me out. I know you missed me, man, but May has been a crazy month, man, and golly, it's been a busy one. But luckily for me, I'm doing everything that I got to do to get through that, as well as, I'm trying to prep myself and trying to get myself back into running the city again, dealing with the injury stuff. But I've been trying to take care of myself, going through a little physical therapy, man, trying to do the best I can to go ahead and get myself back on that road and hitting pavement, man. But y'all take care. Godspeed. Very blessed and grateful for you guys checking me out, man. Like I said, man, feel free to hit up all my social medias. Y'all guys want to holler at me, man, feel free to do so. But anywho, y'all take care. Godspeed. Very grateful for you guys. And remember to be the goat, never a sheep, and do not sleep on your dreams. Take care. Peace.